Honestly, one of the most underrated transfer portal additions that Miami just made is Cincinnati receiver Tony Johnson. Here's how he's going to help at the U.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On this special episode, we'll talk about the trajectory of new Miami receiver Tony Johnson, who transferred in from Cincinnati, and what Miami is getting from this player, who this past season in Cincinnati, 449 receiving yards on 48 catches, 6 touchdowns scored. But what does he bring to the table both on and off the field? Nobody better to talk about this with than our guest, Jim Kelly. Now, not that Jim Kelly. It's ironic that we're on a Miami show. This Jim Kelly is a Cincinnati Sports Hall of Famer, University of Cincinnati Bearcats, radio analyst at Cincinnati. And Jim, you also played receiver at Cincinnati. So I think having a conversation about Tony Johnson with you is appropriate. How are you?
I'm good, Alex. Thanks for having me. And yes, Tony's a good one. So you guys are you're getting a good one in Tony for sure. But yeah, I'm a receiver, different game back in the 70s when I played. However, the basics are still the same. And as we talk about Tony, I played out wide one year. Again, you didn't have the spread offenses and the 5 wide outs, but I played wide 1 year, 2 years actually. And then they moved me inside to where kind of what would be considered today a slot receiver, which is where Tony pretty much lines up most of the time, or did line up. And I'm sure the Hurricanes will have a spot for him there on the inside. But at the same time, he's very capable of doing other things as well, which we'll get into.
Well, and let's get into that. So talk about Tony Johnson's game, because you were calling all of his games this past year for the Bearcats. What stands out to you from a positive standpoint? Let's talk on the field first.
Yeah, on the field, let's look at him. He's 5'10", 185, which quite honestly, that's exactly where I played. Wish I still was at 185, but that's another story. And when you look at today's game, or even, the game all along, you look at that size and you go, okay, prototypical inside slot receiver type guy. And that's where they lined him up most of the time. And quite honestly, that's where he was effective. However, you can't do that all the time. People, they know your routes. They know what you're going to do. So Xavier Henderson, who was the X last year, or the outside wide receiver, was a bigger target, 6'3", 205, 210, and did a really nice job of kind of what you would say taken off the top. I don't even know if that term's being used anymore, but he was a speed guy on the outside. You could throw it up to him deep in the end zone, and he could, 50-50 balls go get him. Well, they used Tony out there quite a bit as well. Now, again, the bulk of his catches came from the inside. And as we know in today's game, you'll even put a talented kind of hybrid tight end in there at that slot spot as well. And the Bearcats had one of those guys, another transfer. He was transferred down from Ohio State. His name is Joe Royer, and he had a really, really good year, broke Travis Kelce's tight end records, and is projected to be a first-round draft choice this next year in the 2026 draft. And we'll see how that goes. But anyway, they would pair Tony up with Joe a lot, so they're running combination routes. And where Tony was effective, and this is what I think you're getting, and if you go back and you look at his highlight reel, I'm sure it shows it, you get a guy who's able to, in that slot position, let's say that if it's a one-on-one situation, he's going to win that battle most of the time. He's a really, really good route runner. And even if it's a zone situation, he does a good job of one of the plays he caught a lot was, a corner route from that inside slot where the wide receiver would either come across the middle quickly, the guy who was outside rather, or he would take the top off if you're further out. And then that would allow Tony to do a little bit of like a post move and then make that move to the corner. And that's where he caught a couple of touchdowns. And not only that, wasn't just the route that got him open. If the ball's a little bit off there, Tony was able to really kind of contort his body and go get that football. So you're getting a guy with runs really good routes, really good hands. Speed is not your 4.35 type of guy, but he's definitely under 4.5. So you're getting good enough speed there. And that makes up for that 5'10" body frame when you're getting a step or two or some, you're getting a little bit of, space between you and the defender, whether it's a zone coverage or whether it's a man-to-man coverage.
Hearing this excellent scouting report you just gave us, and I know I'm not the only Miami person who's thinking this, a lot of similarities to Xavier Restrepo, who, Miami just lost to the NFL. Right. I think makes sense why Miami would see Tony Johnson and say, okay, this could be a really natural Xavier Restrepo replacement. And I'd also love to know, Jim, your experience covering Tony Johnson off the field, getting to know him a little bit this past year. What kind of a young man is he?
Well, you're getting a good one there too. So
good.
One of the things we did with our coach's radio show, we would have the head coach on, Scott Satterfield, and then kind of the second half hour, we did a little Q&A with a position coach, and in that position coach's group, a player. And we had the opportunity to have Tony out for our radio show. And he's a quiet, humble guy, but at the same time, very well spoken. And I mean, he's you're getting a fantastic person. He was yes, sir, no, sir, answered the questions, talked about, all the things he liked about Cincinnati, missed Florida, no doubt, which is one of the reasons he's probably, he chose the Canes. He's from Ocala, and he played at FAU before Cincinnati. So, and not the, it was kind of this last portal period after spring ball. There's a little bit of movement, but always not a lot. And to see him move is not a shock, but at the same time, there's so many different factors in today's game. And, you and I could debate for hours, the portal and NIL and all that kind of stuff. And that's not what we're here to talk about today. But anyway, you're getting a good young man on the field and a great young man off the field as well.
We'll continue our conversation with Cincinnati color analyst Jim Kelly, including on if there's anything Tony Johnson is going to look to polish or improve about his game at the U. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on Locked On Canes. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full responsibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Guys, instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever, by the way. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. It is good to know, like from a Miami point of view, that with him leaving Cincinnati, there was no bad blood there. It wasn't, a situation where, he wasn't getting along with coaches or he was worried about his playing time or anything like that.
Yeah, I will tell you that Scott Satterfield vets his new coaching hires and his transfers unbelievably well because and I think in today's game, it probably doesn't matter as much as it did even 5 years ago, the culture. But he has not abandoned that. He wants his guys to fit in. He honestly, his first year, he pretty much hung on to everybody. And there was some bad apples in the locker room. And he got rid of them. And these guys were starters. They were good players, but they didn't fit and they caused issues. And he got rid of every one of them. It's worked to his advantage, maybe not to the extent where Cincinnati fan base for sure would like to see the win-loss totals, although they improved last year over the previous year. And honestly, on paper, they look better this year. They've got 7 home games, which should help. So, but from that standpoint, Tony Johnson was one of those guys that Scott Satterfield, who really, really does value quality people, felt that Tony Johnson fit into what he wanted to do.
I love to hear that. We're joined by Jim Kelly, radio analyst and former University of Cincinnati Bearcat. He's a University of Cincinnati Sports Hall of Famer who's kind enough to join us and talk a little bit about Tony Johnson. Now, you mentioned when you're giving us the scouting report that that he's not the fastest guy when it comes to like pure 40-yard dash type of speed. Is there anything else that you kind of see him? And obviously, you can't really change speed so much, but anything about his game that you think needs a little bit more polishing and development?
Well, and again, I don't know where Miami's going to use him, and you're not going to know till summer ball's into spring ball's over. Yeah. But the one other thing that he did do, and the Bearcats had a number of these guys, the other two that slot position at times can get the ball handed off to him or pitched to him, or there's this play, it ends up being a forward pass where, you got jet motion across the front of the quarterback and he pitches it. Literally, Alex, you and I could have a completion percentage of 70% if this is the only play that we ran, because you're throwing it 2 yards as the guy crosses in front of you. But he did do that a little bit. I believe he throws the ball as well. I don't think he had a completion last year, but I did see him do it in practice. And I don't know that they even pulled the trigger on that play. But he was not there was a couple of other guys that are still there that ran that jet sweep either behind the quarterback or in front of the quarterback. They had a little bit more speed, but Tony was able to do that. And I think the reason they did that ties into one of the things that I think he does well. Always can use a little bit more polish there because he didn't really get a lot of game experience doing that. But one of the reasons you do that is the home run. You get that 4-3 guy out there and he gets a break and gets a block from the other wideout and he's off to the races. Well, Tony wasn't that guy, but if you needed 8-10 yards and you wanted to do a little surprise on 2nd and 8, he was the guy that would make that first cut and get that ball up the field to where he was either got the first down or was close to it. Now, that doesn't mean he couldn't break it and take it all the way. He has good enough speed to do that, but he never was able to do that. The only thing I would say to improve his game, and honestly, his hands are great. He made a couple of those touchdown catches where literally he was falling out of bounds, the 1 foot inbound, was able to adjust his body away from the DB to get it. So, I mean, he does things really, really well. I would say, and again, and I don't know your roster for this upcoming year, but if he gets to play on the outside, that's one of the things he's going to have to work at, is using that body to shield. If you're not 6'2", 6'3", you're not going to go up over the top, generally over the DB to pick the ball up, pick the ball off. Not pick it off to catch the ball. But sure, you can use your body. You can slow down at the last second, know that ball's a little ahead of you, then speed up quickly. I've seen guys do this. And it's one of the things that he didn't do, where you use your body to shield the DB, then you speed up. And, when I say speed up, so I'm not talking 10 yards. It's that last 2 to 3 yards, and get your hands out there to catch the ball, because he really does have good hands and he runs really good routes. Blocking wise, I don't know what he's going to be asked to do. Not a huge body by any means, but at the same time, in today's game, you can use your hands a little bit and push a little bit, which I wasn't allowed to do. But at the same time, he's okay there. I would say that'd be an area that maybe he could improve on a little bit.
Well, this is tremendous, and I appreciate your time, Jim. And I can see why you're a popular radio analyst, because the way you describe things, it's if a dummy like me can understand, then I think anyone can. So I appreciate your time, Jim.
No problem. I think you started it off well with pointing out that I was a wide receiver and Tony's a wide receiver. You were asking me about the left tackle, you'd be doing all the talking.
That'll have to be another time. Jim Kelly, where can people find you, by the way, Jim, if you want to plug your social media and
Sure.
where folks, because I think fans will want to hear more from you.
Sure. You can find me on X, or formerly Twitter, as everybody says, at Jim Kelly 7 at Twitter, at X.
I love it. Well, we appreciate Jim's time and the insight and Tony Johnson. I hope he hits big here at the University of Miami. We'll talk to you guys next time on another episode of Locked On
I hope
Canes.
He does well down there too, Alex. He's a good young man. So Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good. It's our pleasure. We'll talk to everybody next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That was fantastic, Jim. Thank you so much.